Well, President Trump absolutely went scorched earth again. And who set him off? His own GOP. Shouldn't be a surprise, but we're going to start with 4 stories first, pulled directly out of a political variety show. A Senate campaign video somehow gets launched without actually being visible to the public. Won't make sense until you see what I show you. And then the latest national debate over not policy, not economy, but over a color. No, you can't make it up. And the story is as strange as it sounds. And then in New York City's own Ron Mandalian doesn't disappoint us. Or does he disappoint the people of New York? And I promise you by his appointment, he does, before we get to what a Clinton-appointed judge just did to President Trump. Because, you know, those wind turbines, I guess for whatever reason, had to take center stage. Because Orange Man bad. And that's just a warm-up. Because you heard about what happened with Alina Habba. But there's a bigger story behind that. And that's the real headline. Not specifically about her future, but what President Trump called out, a long-standing procedural roadblock, once again, that the Democrats know how to maneuver, and the GOP has no idea. And we wonder why the judicial process and lawfare will always stand in the way of any progress. So let me tell you all about what it means and why President Trump just lost his ever-loving mind once again in just a few seconds. All right, let's dive rapid fire. 4 stories, all making waves yesterday, and all pointing in one very odd direction. The political world has officially entered, or continued to enter, into plot twists every 10 minutes. And we'll start with this. Not with President Trump, no. With this.
How about this new one they have, their new star, Crockett? How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett! Oh, man, oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
That's her Senate official campaign launch video using President Trump. Because that's all they ever have. As we warned, she is now officially running for Senate. I can't even say it. She's officially running for Senate. Let's just leave it at that. Because she's officially kicked off her U.S. Senate run. But the video announcing her bid was uploaded as unlisted on YouTube. Unlisted video, just so you know what that means. It doesn't show up publicly. It's only searchable if someone sends you a link. Not the normal way you would post a video like this. The presentation, as you saw, her sitting silently, using President Trump's words, playing over the top of it. It's I guess you could call it bold, stylistic choice. And it leaves a lot of people wondering whether it was designed for voters or designed purely to spark conversation online. And I guess it worked, because here we are covering it, right? It grabbed attention, even if it didn't show up in anyone's subscription feed, which again I find very peculiar, but not as peculiar as the next story. Pantone introduced Pantone color of the year. Somehow this sparked controversy. A wave of criticism all across the internet. Some commentators labeled the color everything from uninspired to symbolic of the times. You know what the color was? Others defended it as harmless fun. I don't think they meant really anything by it, because the Pantone color was Cloud Dancer, a shade of white. And the reactions, well, priceless.
Hey, Pantone, you're fired. You really chose white? You chose white in these times? You're fired.
Not going to convince me that this was not an intentional move. There's no way that this was an oversight. Like someone did this on purpose.
Of course, controversy everywhere, right? And suddenly the same folks who told us representation doesn't matter are having a collective nervous breakdown over a shade of white paint. You can't make this stuff up. Imagine telling generations, don't worry about world events, the color wheel is under control. But here we are, a full cultural debate triggered by pigment. But another debate is being triggered right now, and that's happening in New York. Zohran Mamdani taps ex-con rapper who served 7 years for armed robbery as his criminal justice advisor. You don't really have to spark controversy. He does it for himself. The incoming mayoral transition team announced the addition of a new advisor on criminal justice issues, a previously incarcerated rapper whose history immediately attracted attention, as you would expect. Supporters say it brings a perspective rooted in real experience. Critics question whether the role would be better filled by someone with more traditional policy background. Did anybody expect anything traditional out of Mamdani? Don't. It's a decision that has generated strong reactions across the spectrum, and it signals the incoming administration's plan to take unconventional approaches. I'm sure it does. Unconventional or conventional, the announcement has been made. My son Lennon is now proud to be announced as being the advisor on criminal justice reform. Thank you, Zohran. You're going to give me so much to talk about. Follow up to yesterday's story. Kristi Noem, I told you, DHS Secretary, has overseen the president's most controversial domestic initiative, and allegedly Trump was moving away from Noem, and it did exactly what this article was intended to do. Reporters asking her questions now about it, and she had to respond.
No, I don't have any indication of that. The president is fantastic. I'm very proud every single day to be able to work for him.
I guess we'll find out. If the new year brings a new DHS secretary, now I can't wait to see in the comments if you believe that's going to happen or not, but stranger things have happened. You remember this executive order, temporary withdrawal of all areas on the outer continental shelf from the offshore wind leasing and review of federal government's leasing and permitted practices for wind projects. You see, we voted President Trump for a mandate for change. And those changes included many, many items. We did not vote for U.S. District Judge Patty Saris with a mandate for change, but she chose, according to this, a federal judge ruled that the Trump administration had failed to justify its decision to suspend permitting of new wind projects in keeping with the Republican president's wishes. So she sided with a group of 17 Democrat-led states and the District of Columbia in finding that agencies had failed to sufficiently explain why they indefinitely paused all federal approvals of wind energy projects. A Clinton-appointed judge states the policy constituted a change of course from decades of agencies issuing or denying permits related to wind energy projects. Indeed, the agency defendants candidly concede that the sole factor they considered in deciding to stop issuing permits was the president's direction. Yes, because we voted him with a mandate for change. We did not vote you in to mandate change. But the lawfare continues. And it leads us into why, when New York Attorney General Letitia James, we won our lawsuit and stopped the Trump administration from blocking an array of new wind energy project judges, attorney generals. These appointments roll forward Boasberg escalating contempt inquiry over Alien Enemies Act deportations. How did they all get in place? You see, there's a system in place. Something that leads into the big story. Alina Habba's future and Trump's response to what's called the blue slip stalling. You know, I get into the technicals here, not just the sound bites and talking points. Because the big story, it's not just an update. It's a signal something is shifting inside the legal world surrounding the administration. And President Trump took direct aim at Chuck Grassley on this specific item. And rightfully so. And I'll explain that in just a minute. As many of you know, this is just a portion of the podcast I do almost daily now. Part 2 will be at Restricted Republic. I hope you'll join me there. That's a news platform that Lisa Haven, my wife, and I created many, many years ago for you. No commercials, no interruptions. We're going to continue on why Zelensky may have just ended his own country. It's unfortunate. He took President Trump's peace plan and shredded it and threw it in the fire. I'm going to go through the details of what he did and how that ties into the defense bill, because Congress couldn't get a budget passed. But man, they had no hesitation adding $8 billion. And I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'll tell you what's in that defense bill. And you'll see exactly where the great Republic of the United States is headed and why we may need it after the decisions are being made overseas by the Three Stooges and Zelensky. I also want to thank each and every one of you for supporting this channel, for doing those simple steps I ask of you every day to help assure the algorithm knows this news matters. And yesterday's video took off because of that, by making sure your bell is checked all, by subscribing, by providing a comment or a share, whatever means you have available to you. If you have additional means, by joining as a member here. Thank you. All of those things make a difference, and it assures that more people learn what black and white news was meant to sound like, moderated whenever possible, but always educating to assure you understand big stories like this. Just in, Alina Habba posts stunning announcement about her future, and she did. She steps down. Because once her appointment is questioned, any prosecution she does could be called into question. So at this point, although she's not surrendering, she has to step down. And what her aspirations may be in the future, nobody can be sure. It is all hearsay at this point in time. Pam Bondi coming out, following the flawed Third Circuit decision disqualifying Alina Habba from performing her duties as the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey. I am saddened to accept her resignation, but we got to go further in this. Those are what I call sound bites and talking points, as is Trump goes scorched earth over Dem's blue slip block of Habba, other U.S. attorney picks. So I have to explain to you what that means, and I will, because the story is important. Because according to the new reports, Alina Habba has provided an unexpected update, her resignation. She spelled out every detail, but she suggested major changes are coming, potentially expanding her role, taking on new responsibilities, or stepping into a position with broader influence. I certainly hope she does. She's very qualified at what she does. What's key is timing. Habba didn't make this announcement in a vacuum. She made it while another major issue is unfolding in the Senate. And Trump gives you indications of this. It's called the blue slip roadblock. Again, this is where our news differs from everyone else's, because people don't like talking procedural issues, but here I like to, because it actually affects everything that's happening. And this is at the heart of all this political drama. The Senate's blue slip tradition, let's give you a quick breakdown of it. It's a long-standing courtesy that allows a home state senator to approve or oppose nominees for certain federal positions. It isn't a law, it's a tradition. It's a backroom handshake agreement. And traditions can be used as tools, aka weapons, or obstacles. Several of the administration's preferred U.S. attorney candidates have been caught in this procedural bottleneck, unable to move forward. President Trump has spoken on this. So when the reports broke out that Habba's future was in question, it immediately raised eyebrows. Is she being repositioned in response to this? Is the administration preparing for a different pathway to fill these roles, or is it simply about expanding her influence within a system currently being slowed by Senate rules? President Trump did not stay quiet.
As U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey after the courts disqualified her. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, she's not disqualified. You've got a blue slip thing that's horrible. It's a horrible thing. It makes it impossible to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney, and it's a shame. And the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves that they allowed this to go on. because I can't appoint a U.S. attorney that's not a Democrat, because they put a block on it. So if you appoint in Virginia or in New Jersey or in California a U.S. attorney or a judge, I mean, a judge situation is ridiculous. The only people that you can get by are Democrats, because they will put a hold on it. If I put up George Washington and Abraham Lincoln to be U.S. attorney in New Jersey or to be U.S. attorney in Virginia, we have Democrat senators, they will not approve them. And this is a gentleman's agreement that's lasted for too long, and it doesn't make it, especially in light of what's going on today. It means you can't appoint a Republican U.S. attorney, and we don't play the same game with them, but they do. And I hope that somebody speaks to Senator Grassley about doing something about the blue slip, because I'm telling you, John, I put up great people, top people, highest education, the best lawyers to be like U.S. attorney, and both senators, it only takes one, but if they're Democrat senators, they say we're not going to approve it.
Obviously, President Trump upset. Well, he should be. He pushes back, says the delays are preventing the administration from fully staffing the Justice Department. The Democrats do not play by the same rules. They never do. And hence, what happens? Some would argue that they control the judicial department, the judicial branch, at least at the state levels. Because they, according to President Trump, quote unquote, Democrats have violated blue slip. His position, President Trump's, is simple. The Justice Department can't run at full strength if key roles remain unfilled due to procedural barriers. And saying it publicly forces the conversation into the open. It also sends a message to the Senate. This is no longer a behind-the-scenes standoff. So how does Habba fit into this larger picture, you might ask? Probably not as difficult as it appears. If you only want to cover talking points and sound bites, you would have missed it. Habba's announcement now looks less like a personal career update and more like part of a coordinated realignment, a Trump strategy. If the administration sees a prolonged standoff over traditional appointment methods, it may start preparing alternate strategies. Everything from interim appointments to legal restructuring to more aggressive public messaging. President Trump had that speech prepared. Habba stepping into a potentially broader or different role could mean new strategy, new responsibility, a shift in legal posture, or preparation for a major upcoming legal phase, of which President Trump will use Habba for, as he has before. Her update arrives precisely when the administration is pushing back hardest against Senate delays. And that's not coincidence. So why does this all matter? This isn't just about personalities, it's about capability. If U.S. attorney seats remain blocked, investigations slow, prosecution stall, departmental momentum fades, and policy implementation hits a wall, as I reported to you prior, and continues to happen. A Justice Department without its full leadership team is a Justice Department operating at half strength. The administration knows this. And today's development suggests, or yesterday's development suggests, they're getting ready to escalate efforts to complete their staffing. President Trump has talked about this many, many times.
And the problem is they're not going to ever be confirmed, I guess. I put them in. They'll be there for 3 or 4 months, whatever it's about, and then they have to leave. Because anytime you have, as you know, anytime you have a Democrat senator, not even two, just one, they'll say because of the time we're in, we're not approving that person. We're not approving. They never do. They won't approve.
But the public voted for him in a landslide. But he can't put anybody in place. That was back in October. He said the same thing in August. He's been aggravated. What has his GOP done? Nothing. They never do. Aggravating? Aggravated? Absolutely. I have a constitutional right back in August to appoint judges and U.S. attorneys, but that right has been completely taken away from me in states that have just one Democrat United States Senator. if there's a Republican or a Democrat, courtesy says if they put up the wrong judge and that Democrat doesn't want them appointed, or the wrong attorney, the Democrat says no, gentleman's agreement says, okay, that appointment's blocked. Do you agree with that? We elected President Trump. That's because of this custom called the blue slip. And Senator Chuck Grassley of the great state of Iowa refuses to overturn, even though the Democrats, including, well, Joe Biden, have done so on numerous occasions. They violated the blue slip. We don't violate it. Hence why they are always winning and filling these positions, and why Trump now faces an uphill battle. Chuck Grassley should allow strong Republicans, he states, and Republican candidates to ascend to these very vital and powerful roles, and tell the Democrats, as they often tell us, to go to hell. Very strong position, huh? But what does Chuck Grassley do? He whines when he was confronted by the president on this.
Last night, I was surprised to see President Trump on Truth Social go after me and Senate Republicans over what we call the blue slip. Now, the people in the real America, not here in this Washington, D.C. and island surrounded by reality, the people in real America don't care about what the blue slip is, but in fact, it impacts in their states the district judges who serve their communities and the U.S. attorneys who ensure the law and order is enforced.
But President Trump was right, Mr. Grassley. Another attorney left. You were not correct. People in America do care. Stop pontificating and talking down your nose at us. Because what happened just happened. The 100-year-old blue slip allows home state senators to have input on U.S. attorneys and district court judges. In Biden administration, Republicans kept 30 liberals off the bench that President Trump can now fill with conservatives. But that's not happening. The blue slip tradition is a relic of Senate cronyism that prioritizes political games over judicial efficiency. So what say you? Because as the headlines swirl from campaign launches and color controversies to unexpected appointments and legal battles, the real story tonight is a shifting landscape inside the Justice Department once again. The major update, Alina Habba, a Senate procedural tradition being used to slow down Trump's appointments, and an administration signaling it's no longer willing to let these key roles sit empty. The next few weeks will reveal now whether today marked the start of a new strategy or the beginning of a much larger showdown over the structure and future of federal leadership. This story's just getting started, folks, but I'll be here to cover it in the details like today, keeping it very black and white, so you're just not lost in a talking point headline. There is always more color behind it. Before we get into something that's a bit more confusing, as a matter of fact, 3,086 pages of confusing. And why? It is critical because of what I call the Three Stooges, Zelensky, and him giving his demands against what President Trump demanded in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And folks, it ain't good. And that's what I'll do at part 2 now of the podcast. For those of you at Restricted Republic, you know it's the black and white version of the color tab. For those of you not at Restricted Republic, I certainly hope you'll join me there now as we continue this podcast forward. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.